G'day, I'm Jacqui from 360 Gearboxes and Diffs, and today I'm going to talk about the H150 H151 Gearbox compared to the R151, which was in the HZJ105 Landcruisers and also the Hiluxes. There's a big misconception. This is the tiny little R151 that is in the 1HZ motors, which is a HZJ105, but this is in all 80 series. So same motor, different box, which is why the 80 series was always well sought after for the driveline, because that's a big sucker in that car, even though it's got the same motor as the HZJ105. So luxury vehicle, tiny gearbox, good hardy all-round vehicle, off-road vehicle. In the 80 series, big box. Now, as you can see at the front here, input shaft. Look at the size. I'll get an input shaft later to show you the size of the bearings. When people say I've got a noisy input bearing, you'd believe it on this one, wouldn't believe it on this one. These never fail. They're the biggest bearing, hard ass bearing, very, very strong. R151 in Hilux KUNs. It's also in a number of Mitsubishis, but mostly known for the HZJ105 and the KUN26 and the KZN, so earlier Hiluxes. Big weakness, fifth gear, third gear, first gear, hard to get into first gear and jumping out of gear, losing third and fourth, and pretty much always losing fifth. In the HZJ79s, again, 1HZ motor Landcruiser. Utes, they also have, their transfer is actually built over the back of the gearbox, and they tend to lose drive because they wear the spline between the gearbox and transfer. 79 series ute, this also comes in a 79 series ute, but this is in the factory turbo, 1HD TFTE HDJ79s, and also in the later model 79 series Landcruiser V8 turbo diesel. These gearboxes are also, this is effectively a factory turbo box, even though it's also in the HZJ80, which is why people can't comprehend the difference, because these are also in the 1HZ motors. HDJ80, FZJ80, all 80 series have this size box. They're different, there's little differences in them, but they're all this large. So big box in all 80 series. It's also in the HDJ100, so all the factory turbos, the UZJ, the V8 petrol, it's in the FZJ petrol 100 series, and in all the factory turbos, so 79 series utes or the Troopies. So much larger gearbox, much larger parts. So you can imagine when people put an aftermarket turbo on these tiny little gearboxes, I call them pissy little gearboxes, because in Australia, they just don't meet consumer demand. Fifth gear on these suckers. Fifth gear on these ones. Now in this one, that fifth gear comes out from factory partially splined, which is why people say it's not fully splined. Why they did it, I don't know. They keep us in business. We're happy, owners not so happy. This gear is located behind the sandwich plate at the back here. So the power of torque from fourth gear, which is your direct drive, going through the cluster and back there has a much larger power of force. Tiny little gear, towing in fifth, not a good idea because that'll just disintegrate. Whereas the factory turbo box, look at the difference. Larger gear though, you have it's larger and it's located closer to the fourth gear, but it only actually has 200 RPM difference between fourth and fifth. Whereas this one has 500 RPM between fourth and fifth. So there's always down trades. Long trips, you have an actual fifth gear. This one in the traditional factory boxes, you'll only have 200 RPM, which is why they drink through the juice. That's it for part one. We're about to talk about the next phase.